Hi there folks, my name's NovaWing24 and welcome to another little review of a prepared V4 product. So today we are having a look at something a little bit different. We are having a look today at, well, it's not completely a fictional aircraft, it is, so we say, a concept aircraft. So we are having a look at the UV-4 eVTOL from the design stables of AeroG Aviation, and also brought to us for prepared by the same company. So we're going to have a look at this one today as it go through the usual formats and all the fun stuff, and go through my thoughts on it. But first off, before we get started, I do want to say thank you very much to the team over at AeroG Aviation for providing the review copy of this add-on for us to have a look at today and perhaps see an idea of what the future may hold of aviation. So this product is interesting actually. So it's actually in its fourth iteration for flight sims. And the story behind it is actually really interesting, and that's what's actually got me drawn into this, and was very intrigued me greatly. I remember actually reporting on this in the Nova Wrap videos a couple of times, and it's great to see that this one's, and I'm very fortunate that the guys at AeroG have sent me a review copy to have a look at. But as I said, we're going to go through the usual format of the review. We're going to have a look at this, the outsides here, and then we're going to go for some flying, go through here. And as I said, but I am going to preface this review by saying that I do have mixed feelings about this, and we're going to get through that as we get into the review. But yeah, look, it's a really interesting, and the story behind this this flight sim add-on is actually really interesting as well. So as I said, this is the UV-4 behind a company called AeroG Aviation. Now that company and this project and this design actually came from a community college, a STEM project at a community college, and that's part of what really excited me when I first heard about this. It was seeing prepared be used in something which is the way I kind of like really imagine the prepared is, which is it's very much being used as sort of like demonstrate some concepts to be used as a training platform, be used as a development platform to sort of show the possibilities of some of the future things that things can do. And one of the cool things, as I said, like how this all started was there was the Bergen Community College, as part of their STEM program. One of the a group of students got together to actually sort of design and create and test and sort of field the concept of an unmanned aerial vehicle that could be used for commercial purposes to actually sort of ferry cargo from point A to point B, because let's be honest, like we all sort of rely a lot on sort of getting stuff from point A to point B. So the idea of is being able to replicate, deliver to remote and regional areas, or be able to sort of make deliveries more faster and more efficient and safer by automating the process and being loading them into a UAV. So, and this was where the idea started. And funny enough, it's actually used as a case study by Lockheed Martin on the Prepared website as to some of the great work that Prepared can be used for. So it's very interesting to see that, and as I said, when I first heard about it, and great to have an opportunity to have a look at it in its current form. However, that's also leads into where some of my concerns come in as well. So yeah, anyway. So as I said, we're going to go through this review. We're going to go through a couple of things, and as I said, so we're going to start here, as we usually do, by having a look here at the external model here. So we can't really compare it to sort of what's real life, because as I said, this is still a very much a concept aircraft from AeroG Aviation, which is a startup company in the United States. And this is one of their two concept aircraft. They have another concept aircraft, the AeroG-4, which is their sort of their passenger variant that has the ability to take passengers, and some more of a sort of like an intercity sort of intra-city or intercity shuttle, sort of like for a dozen passengers. But this is the original cargo version, and the idea is that you've got this cargo ramp at the back here, and a fairly cavernous cargo bay. Designed to be able to take a couple of standard sort of airline pallets to be able to put in here. So yeah, as I said, it's a pretty interesting concept and the idea, and this just sort of showcases and shows it off and allows us to experience perhaps what the future might be. Now, the design of the aircraft is very interesting, very clean design with a sort of like teardrop shape, and then we've got the 4 ducted fans driven by electric motors. So in this case, it is, according to the developer, it is actually driven by a turbine engine. So that's why we also have this sort of this secondary exhaust, so more of this this sort of exhaust, very similar to, very reminiscent of a Harrier's a jet engine exhaust, to actually sort of give you a bit of extra thrust here. So we've got the four ducted fans. So we've got on these little sponsons here, as well as the twin-tailed, twin-rudder control surfaces at the back there as well. In terms of being able to sort of navigate, the idea is that you've got a couple of sets of sensor suites at the front here. So we've got the turret sensor, which drops out from the nose. And normally that turret sensor only deploys when the aircraft's powered down. Otherwise, when it's powered up, it'll only deploy once the undercarriage is actually neatly tucked up into the aircraft. Otherwise, you sort of got the green panel there. We've got some sort of fixed sensors to be able to sort of see on the ground. So yeah, as I said, it's a fairly basic, interesting thing. We've got some control services there, so it's a fairly interesting concept. As I said, very clean design. It's very something that the team very much pride themselves on. As I said, very impressive looking. So, but yeah, we can't really compare it to everything because, yeah, as I said, this is all very much a concept idea. So there you go. So that's nice sort of looking through here, the tricycle undercarriage there. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the, well, I would say a virtual cockpit, but that's the thing. It's a UAV, so there's no cockpit per se. But we are going to have the opportunity to actually sort of go through and actually control the aircraft as if we were from a remote telepresence in just a moment. The only sort of, the one sort of by where I will sort of talk about at the start here is that so at the moment we've got the aircraft sort of shut down in cold and dark, and the only way to actually stop the propeller blades from spinning when you shut the aircraft down is to actually reload it into another aircraft. They don't actually wind down at any point. I believe that has something to do with the fact that this is actually within the sim. This is actually modeled as they've classified it as a helicopter, as a rotorcraft, and is using the rotorcraft flight dynamics rather than the more traditional fixed wing flight dynamics, which pose some issues later on, which we'll come across when we take it up for a test flight shortly. But otherwise, enough of this wander around here the outside. Let's virtually climb onto board, and we'll set up the systems going into it now. Alright, so here we are in the virtual cockpit view in inverted commas here. So obviously this is a UAV, so virtual cockpit is sort of a bit of a misnomer. So this is essentially the view out of the sensor turret, or one of the sensor turrets that's on the nose. So as we sort of like swing around to the left here, we can see we've got our little, we've got our engine pod there, and we've got another one there, and that's all great. So yeah, that's all good. So what you have essentially instead of a cockpit per se is you have this this is on the Shift 1 pop-up. This is like this heads-up display, which essentially is the view that the remote operator would see, and it overlays it over the view that you get through the sensor turret. So you know this makes sense, and this is actually really interesting, and the way they've done it is kind of cool as well, because obviously we've got the fairly basic stuff here. So obviously we've got a basic autopilot here, which is better than the one that was originally released for this. They have had one major update of this since it was released, which they overhauled the autopilot, which was a really good thing, because the first autopilot they had was absolutely woeful. Anyway, so you got your autopilot on, information up there. You've got then your altitude and heading hold down there on the left. Now that is just a simple mouse scroll over this to be able to adjust the figures. So a simple mouse scroll there. What we're going to do is we're going to set that ready for a little bit later on when we do our flight. I'm just going to quickly set that. I think that's the right heading that I need. That'll be about right. We can adjust it on the fly. So yeah, very simple controls with that one, and simply push button on to sort of click the green buttons to turn it on or off. And then you've got the airspeed indicator on the left. You've got your altitude and your ascent rates there on the right. And then in the center here, you've got this sort of combined artificial horizon, compass, HSI thing, which is probably more at home in sort of, and probably may have seen something similar in your more like Elite Dangerous kind of thing, because it's something that's, you know, it's essentially combining sort of 3 gauges together into one, and it does it in a really sort of it takes a little bit to get used to, but if you play some space games, you'll probably get it a bit faster. So I find it really, really good with the attitude indicator. The only thing I don't like about it, just that maybe it's a small thing, is that the pitch ladder, because it's your only reference point, and because you do sort of have the freedom of movement of the sensor turret, you sometimes are a little bit disorientated sometimes with the numbers, sometimes with the minimal information that's displayed. So anyway, but that's a minor thing, very, very minor thing. But anyway, and then you got a G meter in the top there. Not 100% sure why you have that, but it does have a 2G limit, the airframe does as well. And then you've got some basic advisories. You've got a clock in the bottom right, which is set to Zulu. And then you've got some basic advisory information there about your status of your brakes, doors, and your landing gear. So yeah, it's a fairly basic sort of setup, and exactly as you expect to see as a remote operator of this aircraft, as sort of like you're flying it remotely, or need to take control of its operations while it's away from its automated cruise and whatever. So it's clean, it's simple, and it does the job. So yeah, I can't really fault it really in any way, shape, or form. Now, in terms of other instrumentation, and this is something that's probably it's something that sort of is a little bit odd for me, with the fact that so in the manual comes through some interesting information about, it goes through, it actually gives you checklists. There are checklists for being able to sort of start the aircraft up, be able to sort of operate and stuff like that. So which is really kind of cool and interesting. However, there's one slight problem with that. As you can imagine, that this is a it's a UAV, so there is no cockpit per se, and when your only controls are on this shift pop-up, and you also get the shift 2 pop-up, there is the standard Garmin GPS 500. When that's the only controls you have, you can't exactly go be switching battery switches on and off, because you don't have the switch. So it's really nice that there's all these documentation to show you the correct procedure to open and to start the aircraft up and what buttons to flick, and that's great, but you can't actually do any of it. And that's a little bit disappointing. Like, again, I get that it's a UAV, you don't have a cockpit, but it's kind of like, if you're going to give me a checklist that says do this from cold and dark, then I should be able to do that from cold and dark. So really, unless you actually have a home cockpit setup, or you have key bindings for the extra switches, then you are not going to be able to do that. And essentially, what you actually rely on, and actually the manual, the developer actually said you rely on using the automated startup procedure of Control E to be able to start the aircraft up. So and control, and then if you want to shut it down, you will need to add a keybind to the automatic shutdown of the aircraft. So that's a little bit of a bugbear for me. I know it's small, I know it's tiny, but it's just for me, it's where it starts. The things like this start to add up. So anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to jump quickly back outside the aircraft for a second here. So we're back outside the aircraft. So what we're going to do, and as I sort of said earlier, the only way to sort of stop the actual sort of animations of the ducted fans with their propeller blades turning is actually to sort of be able to switch the aircraft out to something else. You can't. The rotor brake command doesn't seem to work. It's not actually tied to anything, because that would be my assumption of what it would have been, given the fact that this is set up as a rotorcraft rather than an aircraft in the sim. But anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to do our startup sequence as much as we can from the checklist. So we're going to engage our turn our lights on first. We're going to so just while I quickly stop the beautiful rotation here while I do that. So we'll just do the hotkey for L for our lights on. And we're going to close the cargo ramp door. Just a simple shift E for that one. Got a cool little, like, it does that. It's this little like buzzer that sounds. The idea being that that tone actually sort of sounds around the cargo ramp for when it's being operated completely remotely, to actually warn any people around nearby to actually stay clear of the ramp, which is again kind of cool that stuff like that happens. Anyway. So yeah, in terms of the lighting, so the lighting of the aircraft is, we've got our port and starboard lights, we've got our nav lights built into both the front ducted fan here, so one into the fairing of the front ducted fan. Also have them built into the tail here as well. So we've got our nav lights there. Other lights that are set up here as well. You also have these sets of very powerful landing lights at the front here. They're not shockwave lights though. They are just sort of standard, just broad beam lights. Yeah, there's not any shockwave lights, which is kind of disappointing, but you know, a lot of people still use the standard lights rather than shockwave ones. And then we have our rotating beacon down the belly. Now, interestingly enough, there's no rotating beacon on the top of the aircraft, which I always thought that aircraft were required to have a rotating beacon on the top of the aircraft, or the top of the tail. I may be wrong on that, but I swear it was a thing that all aircraft are supposed to have, to aid in sort of other aircraft being able to know, one, their location from above, but also to know when they're actually starting up and things like that, and to do their pushbacks at airports and stuff like that. So, so those are not there. But as I said, otherwise in terms of starting this aircraft up, so we have to do the standard default sim of Control E. So we're going to do that now. The animations of the ducted fans just coming to life there. Now, interestingly enough, the concept aircraft is an eVTOL, or electric-powered VTOL. Now, I was speaking with the developer about that. He said that this aircraft, this sort of prototype initial one, is designed to actually have a small turbine engine, which then powers an electric generator, which then and electric motors, which actually then power the actual ducted fans. So no gearbox sort of arrangements, whatever. It's just the motor that's on board, the engine that's on board, is there to simply power a generator. So kind of cool, kind of interesting, but but they do have plans to have it as a purely electrical aircraft. We just simply plug it into the 3-pin plug in the wall and actually charge it up, which is again really cool, good for the environment and stuff like that as well. So there we are. So we got our startup done. As I said, it'll be kind of fun if we had a way to actually sort of, you know, have like I don't know, like a ground station pop up where you can actually sort of, you know, flick switches on like a ground station and watch it happen. I don't know, but that would be kind of cool. Or a different part of the heads-up display to be able to do that. But anyway, all right, okay. So I'm going to stop waffling on here. We're going to jump back into the turret camera, the sensor turret view, and we're going to take off and go for a quick little test flight today. Alright, okay, so we are powered up and just about ready to take off. Now, so what we're doing here today is this is a little test flight as well, which is kind of something how I imagine this aircraft would actually be used. In that regard, it's we're going to be going from Orcas Island over to Friday Harbour. Both of which sceneries are from Orbix, so these brilliant sceneries from Orbix, and get those up for Orbix Direct for all of your flight simulation needs for all the ESP platforms. But yeah, I sort of see this as sort of where this aircraft would actually fit in really well, being able to do automated cargo deliveries to sort of these remote regional islands. We can sort of go, dropped off so they can replace sort of, you know, long sea carriage, and they can carry more and do it more efficiently than sort of, you know, a passenger or a sort of, yeah, a manned cargo aircraft, because, you know, FedEx and Kenmore Air actually would make a lot of money out of cargo. Maybe this is an alternative for them, but then again, people don't get to fly, and that would be a shame. Anyway, so what we're going to do today, folks, as I said, we're going to take off. We're going to do a little test flight. We're going to go through some of the things that I see about the aircraft, some of the things about the autopilot, and some things about the flight characteristics, which is a very challenging thing to be able to talk about with the flight characteristics, given the fact that it's a fictional aircraft, but again, based on some of the things that I see from other aircraft that we've seen for the ESP platforms and how they've been modeled and stuff like that. But in the meantime, we're going to do a vertical takeoff. So we'll attempt to do a vertical takeoff, because as my viewers, long-time viewers of my channel would know, my helicopter and vertical and rotorcraft skills are somewhat challenged. All right, so we're going to do a gentle power up here. Brakes on. Gently lift off. Positive rate. Gear up. Well, I might go to external view or do this one. It's a rather beautiful sort of picturesque look as takes off over the beautiful sort of Washington countryside of the Pacific Northwest. up here through islands, through Orcas Island, and all these beautiful stuff. So we can see as we're sort of taking off here, we can definitely see that sort of beautiful sort of texturing that's been done here, and the like the aircraft's, you know, the external model is really, really nice. You can also see here as well that as we've now brought the gear up, the turret sort of turned itself around, and is now sort of, you know, got the sensors out a little bit. Now I'm going to be doing this a little bit weird at the moment because I've got sort of like hands-on control at the moment. I haven't got autopilot on the moment because we'll talk about the autopilot in a second. And so I want to show off some of the modeling and some of the confusion that I have with this aircraft a little bit. So ramp up the throttles a little bit here. Might have to bring up. I'm going to bring up that shift pop-up again. This is one of the good things as we're sort of going through here. Okay, so all right. Okay, so one of the things about this aircraft is the fact that it is it's a UAV, and it's a concept aircraft, but it's modeled as a helicopter in the sim. So it suffers from the helicopter dynamics that the ESP platform is perhaps known for not being very good for. And that can be it does present a bit of a challenge to this aircraft. Now, looking at sort of things as we go through here, we can see that one of the things that I noticed about this, actually, this might be easier if we do this from a chase view. It might be a bit easier here. I feel like I'm sort of doing like a bit of an arcade game here, back in the day, sort of, anyway. So, one of the things that you sort of see here as we're doing a bit of maneuvering here, we can see that the ducted fans there on the wingtip. So the actual aircraft, the concept of the aircraft design actually is that it's the wingtip ducted fans are able to rotate through, I think it's about a 90-degree arc. I think it's a 90 or 120 degree arc was what I was reading on it. So the idea is that they can essentially rotate forward for forward thrust flight, much like what the engine nacelles do on the V-22 Osprey. And then for vertical flight, they sort of move into the more traditional sort of vertical position, and essentially comes down like a helicopter, again, like a V-22 Osprey, because the concept has been proven to be very, very effective. Unfortunately, though, that is not modelled in the sim. Like, we can see that they're actually sort of changed. They're controlled sort of by the movements of the stick. Was what they'll control them, but they actually sort of, you can't actually set their pitch to be able to then go, well, I want to fly forward now, so I'm going to sort of pitch the ducted fans forward so I can fly straight and level flight. You can't actually do that, which is disappointing. And again, it comes back to the fact that it's modeled as a helicopter, so you end up flying with this sort of 10 degrees, sort of, you know, about 10-ish degrees, 5 to 10 degrees nose down attitude to try and maintain your altitude and your forward thrust vectoring. So which is, I've got mixed feelings about, because, and this is a bit frustrating, so, and actually, what I might do is I might actually do this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to put on the, where am I? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the autopilot on here. So we're going to go through, like that, 3, I think. Yeah. So we're going to put on the autopilot, so let's just do a click on with autopilot, altitude hold, heading hold. Now, a couple of things that I noticed about the autopilot. Now, as I said, the autopilot's been updated since what it was originally, the original one that was shipped with it. So they've removed a couple of things and actually made it more efficient, which actually, and it actually does kind of work now. So the first thing that I noticed with this is that with the autopilot engaged, it puts your aircraft in this very neutral sort of flat stance. So it puts the ducted fans in a flat position. So even with an autopilot on, it doesn't actually move the ducted fans to being like an in-flight position. What it does do now, which it didn't do before, is that it actually holds your altitude far, far better. So the previous iteration of this, the first release of this aircraft for Prepared V4, it could not hold its altitude, like, at all. It could do the heading hold, and it could do a sort of basic nav hold, but yeah, it just could not hold an altitude. And it had this really weird oscillating, rocking motion, which they've now fixed, which is great, and it's great to see that it actually is being worked on. What I've noticed, though, with this update of the autopilot is that you now lose throttle control. So when you engage the autopilot with altitude hold, you now lose throttle control. So I can actually sort of wind the throttle down to idle, and it won't actually change anything. It simply sets the throttle at what I'm guessing would be like a cruise rating, sticks the nose at about 6 degrees nose down to maintain your altitude, and maintains a cruising airspeed of around about 130-ish knots, which is sort of like the marketed sort of cruise speed of this. So I'm happy that they've fixed the autopilot in terms of at least it actually kind of does what it's supposed to do now. However, it again makes it a lot very again sort of like, well, what's the kind of point here? Because again, it's sort of like, okay, but it really shows off this deficiency of the model with the fact that it doesn't have these ducted fans moving for the different phases of flight. Now, the reason why this frustrates me so much is the fact that this is not a new concept when it comes to ESP modeling. So it's been done for many, many years, going back to Brian Fitzgerald with his freeware, Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica models, going back through to Harriers, the Wilco Harriers, Dino Cataneo with his F-35, more recently V-22 from Batavia, and the MV-22 very, very recently from Mariotti. So we know it can be done. It's a challenge to do with the ESP platform, but it can be done. There are ways to do it where you set it up, where you either set it up where the engine nacelle position is sort of tied to the flap settings, or whether the it's tied through aileron trim settings or some form of settings, or it works on independent coding to enable you to actually sort of, you know, have the thrust positioning actually change based on where the engines are actually being positioned. So it kind of it really disappoints me with the fact that this is not being actually done here. So yeah, it really disappoints me that it's actually not being done here, because there are ways it can be done. And remember, folks, that this is payware. This isn't freeware here. We're talking, this is a payware product. This is, and it's not like it's a, you know, a cup of coffee kind of payware product. Like, this is $10. This is $10 US from your favorite pricing retailer. So it really just goes into it for me with what disappoints me a little bit with this. Like, there are, like, it's a great concept, but it just seems to be falling very short in a lot of stuff that's been proven to be done, you know, in the past. Like, we've got in the model, we've got these what seem to be sort of flap style things, but they're seem to be sort of more done as elevators or ailerons, and it's just, yeah, and it's a struggle because, yeah, it's also at the same time, this is a fictional aircraft. This doesn't actually fly. It's a conceptual prototype at the moment. It's not actually a flying aircraft. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back into the cockpit view. Alright, we're going to disengage the autopilot here. As soon as you I had the thrust idle, so you can see that drop right off there. We're going to turn towards our destination of Friday Harbour here, as I continue with some of my concerns of the release. Now, as I said, the other challenge of this one, as I said, it's done very much like a helicopter. So this could be very interesting to try and land, because for those, as I said, for long-time viewers of my channel, you will know that my vertical takeoff and landing skills are somewhat challenged at times. So anyway, we're going to do our approach here. Because the other thing that I find really challenging with this aircraft is the fact that it's very difficult to slow this aircraft down. There are no flaps, there are no speed brakes. Again, I think that's related very primarily to the fact that this is modeled as a helicopter and makes use of the helicopter physics and flight modeling inside of the ESP platform. But yeah, as I said, it just really frustrates me that we're talking about a eVTOL aircraft with ducted fans, you know, fully movable ducted fans, that's not taking use of those movable ducted fans to actually be able to adjust stuff. So yes, very frustrating for me. And again, it's not like it hasn't been done. Like, it's been done many, many times from various different developers in different ways of doing it. The most common one is sort of using developers used to nickname super flaps. But yeah, just trying to do stuff here, and as I said, it's just really disappointing that I just feel like something was missed here. with this coming in here. So anyway, so yeah, but look, as I said, there's a concept, and it's interesting. And here's the other thing: is that this is a payware product. Like we're paying money for this. This isn't free, and this is the 4th iteration of this product. So this was originally released as freeware when it was first done by the team behind this. So the team behind this, AeroG, they're a startup company that actually sort of came about of a trying to find a way to slow down here and just really not doing it. Seriously, just trying to slow down here is just an absolute nightmare. So it come from a company called AeroG. And they're essentially trying to, and they did this as the original concept was done as a STEM project, which was really exciting for me, because it's really making use of what sort of prepared is sort of one of the bases of prepared is, which is actually sort of be used as a test and a design sort of concept here. And I just really want to slow down, and it's really not slowing down for me. Like I've got throttles at idle, and I'm having to go like 30 degrees nose up to be able to bring the speed down. Alright. Of course now I'm going backwards, anyway. So the company AeroG sort of did this as a concept, and they did this as part of the working with Bergen Community College as part of their STEM program, to be able to sort of create a concept aircraft of a concept UAV that would be able to deliver cargo, potentially deliver passengers as well, and they're doing it to be able to produce this, and that's really good. Seriously. Okay. Go. Seriously, this is my, as I said, I'm a terrible helicopter pilot, and this is really challenging. As I said, and the ducted fanning is not helping with this at all. So AeroG, as I said, like they started this as a STEM project for a community college, and came through and actually produced a really interesting design. And used prepared to sort of do a proof of concept of it, to be able to sort of produce it and go, yeah, cool, this is the idea, and sort of showcase it, and that's great. And that was really exciting for me when I read about this, because I read about it on the prepared forums, and it's actually a sort of an interesting sort of statement on the prepared on the main prepared website as a case study of how Prepare can be very effective for sort of STEM and sort of product prototyping and product development, which I'm really excited about to be able to do, and that was really exciting for me to be able to see that happen. Oh, crunch! That was a bit heavy on the landing, I think. So we've got that, and that's we're going to taxi over here, these hangars over here. So yeah, that was like really interesting to see, and great. It's great to see they're actually doing that here. And then it's kind of like, okay, so they released it as a freeware title, to be able to. Okay, so yeah, that's another thing about ducted fan as well. So you might have just noticed that I'm just trying to taxi, and then I'm like lifting off the ground. So that's because because again, you can't sort of move these ducted fans, so that as soon as I try and put any power on, I actually take off. So that's really frustrating. Alright, so let's shut down here. Alright, engines off and door open. Okay. So yeah, as Bergen Community, so yeah, they released this as freeware, which is great, the initial one they made, and then they released a payware version of it. So that was the first iteration. The second iteration was a payware version for FSX and Prepared V3, and that one was available. It's been available for, I think it's about a year or so now, 18 months now. Then they released and that was about $5, and then they released an X-Plane version, which was $20. I think it was about $20 available over at xplane.org. And then they've released this one. So this one's $10, and this one's for Prepared V4 exclusive. Now, so as I said, this is the 4th iteration of this product, and I'm not seeing a payware quality or 4th version of this. I'm really not. Like, I'm seeing the concept is absolutely brilliant. Like I said, like the UV-4 is their cargo version. They've also got a concept of a passenger version, which is an AG4. Very similar, except it's designed as like an air taxi kind of thing, like an Uber of the skies kind of thing. And both of those concepts, these concepts are great. They are awesome concepts, but they just... And this is where I struggle, because I wanted to find something positive to say about this, because the concept of these aircraft is just phenomenally awesome. But to be selling this product, this content to flight simmers, that's disgusting. Like, no. And I feel it feels like, and as a company for PR, selling this product, which feels woefully incomplete, feels like not enough effort's been put into it, and the fact that there is so many bugs, especially with things like, the ducted fans not being able to turn properly, not being able to set them for different stages of flight, which the real aircraft is supposed to be able to do when it is possible to do inside the platform. It just feels like it feels like we're being profited from. And that's a real shame, and it's a disturbing and worrying trend that I'm seeing in the simulation world at the moment, in flight simulation, that the community seems to be taken advantage of, and that disturbs me and frustrates me, because as I said, like the AeroG, I really support them. I really hope that their concept aircraft that they have, both the UV-4 and the AG-4, I hope that one day, very soon, I will look out of my window and I will see these aircraft in the skies for real. I genuinely hope that. And for me, be able to tell the story and be able to review a product of a company that's used prepared for a really a great reason to be able to use it as a proof of concept demonstrator for a fairly not a radical concept, but a radical enough concept for the civilian market that it deserves to be looked at. And then it just leaves a really sour taste in the mouth to know that the community is having to pay for this, for something that doesn't even have the quality approaching of most. There's medium quality freeware out there that is of better quality than this, and that is incredibly frustrating, because as I said, I really wanted to find positive things to say about this, and I have to say that the 3D modeling is great, but the flight dynamics and the avionics and the fact that people have to pay for this is not good in any way, shape or form, and I can't condone it. I can't support it. I really can't. And now look, the developers have told me that, and I addressed a lot of these concerns to the developer, and the developer did, as I said, he did make fixes to the Autopilot. The Autopilot is vastly improved on what it was, and that has based on feedback. So it is great to see that the developer is working on it, and so I hope to be able to see in the future that this continues to evolve and continues to develop, and maybe one day soon it will be worthy of being a payware product. But I do not see the value in it, and I feel that in its current state, that it is not worth the money. It's just, I'm sorry, I just can't, I can't live it, and it just feels such a shame, because I said the concept is brilliant. I really wish that AeroG all the success in the world to get their real life versions of this off the ground and into our real world skies, but this just feels like profiteering off the flight sim community is what this feels like. If you want to raise money for your project, don't do this. Like, go for a Kickstarter, go promote yourself on on startup pages, go on Shark Tank, go somewhere. Don't get money off us. Do a GoFundMe page, for God's sake. Just don't sell a product that is barely able to be up to the status of freeware. Just don't. Yes. So that's my piece. As I said, very interesting concept. Love the concept. I just think it's just not up to payware standard at this time. As I said, I do hope the developer does work on it further, and actually we sort of see a further iteration of it maybe in the future. I have been told that there is another version for X-Plane coming out sometime next year. And the X-Plane version is better, but I don't have the X-Plane version. I only have the ESP platform version, and that's what I have to base my assessment on. So there you go. But folks, if you do want to get if you do want to pick up this copy of this aircraft, you can pick it up from your favorite flight sim retailer. Just search for UV-4 on your favorite flight sim retailer. You'll be able to find it. Looking around about $10 US or your original equivalent, available now. All right, as we round out this review, I do want to say thank you very much to the guys over at AeroG for providing me with the review copy of this aircraft. And as always, folks, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying these videos and want to see more. And of course, as always, you can catch up with me and all the things I'm up to between videos by finding me on Facebook and on Twitter. Just search NovaWing24. All right, folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care, safe skies to all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.